Last weekend, I met the polyglot Wouter Corduiner. He's the guy behind videos that have gotten millions of views, such as I gave strangers €5 or free sushi if I didn't speak their language. And he can get away with this because he knows 29 languages. So I was taking a walk at my local grocery store and getting groceries, and then I saw him walk past by. And I'm like, hey, he looks kind of familiar. So I introduced myself as another guy making videos about languages. And we ended up having quite a long conversation about language learning. We even spoke some Russian, which must have sounded very funny to any native Russian speaker who would have walked past and saw two Dutch guys speaking Russian in the grocery store in the candy aisle. But yeah, so if you've been following me for a while, you probably know my stance on polyglots and about learning several languages. I think it's much, much better to know one language very well instead of 10 languages at a mediocre level. There's just something like with language learning, I feel that the benefits of knowing a language, that they become exponential the more you know that languages. Sure, you get a little bit of a boost in the beginning once you go from zero to knowing like a couple of phrases, because you can make a good impression on a native speaker of that language. But afterwards, when we're talking about really getting the benefits of speaking, I think it's much better to know one language well instead of several languages at a basic level. Okay, so speaking to Wouter made me soften my stance a little bit because, like I said, he knows 29 languages, and of those 29 languages, I think he said that 6 of them he knows at a basically fluent level. Then 14 of them at a mediocre, intermediate level, and then 9 of them at a basic level. And that's a lot of languages. Like for comparison, the languages that I speak 3 languages at a fluent level, Dutch, English, and Russian, and 2 languages at a basic level, German and Spanish. And even for me, like those 5 languages, and I find that too much at times. And I don't even consider myself to be speaking German or Spanish. It's just like at a very basic level that I can get around. Like I only use them if I'm in a German speaking country or in Spain, just to feel not like a stupid tourist when I'm there. So I have great respect for Wouter that he knows like 29 languages. And I'm unsure if I would I do not have the mental capacity for that, nor the desire to do that. But thinking about that made me want to speak about being a polyglot, because I quite often get emails from people saying like, I am now learning Russian, but I'm also learning Korean and I want to learn French. Oh, and by the way, I'm currently living in Buenos Aires and learning Spanish. So this is a bit, of course, like exaggerated, but people want to learn several languages, and I understand where that's coming from because it's cool to speak more than one language. Like I just said, to me, I enjoy going to German-speaking countries and Spanish-speaking countries that are not and not feel like complete tourists. But at the same time, like it's kind of like a gimmicky because it's quite interesting to speak languages at a basic level. But the real fulfillment I get from language learning is speaking Russian at a high level. If you want to learn, I think it is feasible for a lot of people to speak more than one foreign language. But I think there are a couple of sort of like guidelines that you need to adhere to in order to make sure that this process does not get off the rail. The first thing is that if you learn 2 languages and you give from the start and you give both of them the same amount of time, like equal time, I don't think the chance of becoming successful in any one of them go down. Because with learning a language, you really want to get to the sort of like the conversational level sort of as soon as possible, because that's the point when you start to enjoy conversations, and everything afterwards, it's just a matter of basically learning more words and practicing more speaking. And that's the point when you start to reap some benefits. And I feel like it's really like pushing like a big boulder on a hill. That's the first part of language learning, getting to that conversational level. But then once you are at the conversational level, the boulder just rolls down the hill, and everything, the rest of the post process just goes kind of on its own. And that's why I think it's a mistake to learn 2 languages at the same time from the start and give them both the same amount of time, because you make it's so much longer till you get to the conversational level in any one of those two languages. So then the chances of you burning out are much higher and not achieving any of your goal. Whereas if you take a different approach, and let's say you're learning Russian and Spanish, and you put like 80 or 90% of your time into Russian and 10 to 20% of your time in Spanish, you avoid that problem because now you get to the conversational level in Russian quicker, or at least to the point where you're happy with your Russian skills. And then you can decide what you're going to do with your Spanish skills. And because once you get to a conversational level, it also becomes much easier to later on get back to that level if you, for some reason, kind of let it go. So that's step one. Do not learn two languages from the start and give them equal amount of time. Pick your main language. Ask yourself, what's the main language that I found most important or has the most benefits in my life? And then focus on that language. Like in general, I'm not against learning several languages. I just think you need a good approach for that. And so my approach is learning one language well and maybe like tiny little bit in other languages. But you can do with this information what you want. All right. Thank you very much for watching. Спасибо вам огромное. And I wish you a great day и удачи в изучении русского языка. Пока.